Alright, hello and welcome to the first ever Connells Combat Picks podcast. It's a little scuffed. I'm in my grandparents' house and I have this as my microphone. So we'll see how this goes. The audio should be okay. Just a little introduction on what I'm going to do on this podcast, specifically this one, the Picks podcast, or like the pre-fight podcast. I'm going to talk about the UFC fights and the boxing fights, MMA, Bellator, stuff like that coming up on the weekend. And I'm going to make my predictions for all the fights on the UFC card, and I'll make probably some predictions for when there's a Bellator event, Ryzen or Glory or anything like that, and anything combat related. Yeah, this weekend it's really only UFC 269, and there's a Vasily Lomachenko, Richard Commey fight that is going to be interesting. I don't know much about Commey, but obviously know a lot about Lomachenko. And yeah, just to announce the schedule for this podcast, I'm hoping to do 2 a week. So this one on Friday, the pre-fight, and then on Monday doing like a recap, or maybe even Tuesdays. This is my first time doing this, so cut me some slack. Before we get into the actual card, I want to go over some topics in the combat sports world. Starting off, I want to cover the Aldo versus Khabib GOAT talk. Obviously, Aldo fought this last weekend against Roberston, looked good. Mixed in his wrestling really well. He used it to conserve his energy, which he's done in the past by just taking rounds off, like in his Chad Mendes fight and in many other fights too, like in that final round against Dominick. But what Aldo did so well against Roberston was conserving energy while on top and still winning the fight. So yeah, he looked great obviously, and I think he's one fight away, probably going to fight TJ Dillashaw next. That makes the most sense. He's probably one fight away from a title shot, even if it's Jan, even if it's a rematch with Jan. But seeing how that first fight went, it'll be interesting to see what kind of adaptations Aldo makes. And Aldo's never been one for adaptations, really, like going into rematches. Because when I think back to the Frankie Edgar rematch, kind of did the same thing, but it worked because Frankie Edgar kind of did the same thing. And the Max Holloway rematch, like he was winning in the first round. He was landing some good shots on Holloway in the first fight, but then Holloway just picked it up. And then in the second fight, Aldo didn't change his game plan. Of course, it was on short notice, but still, like he went in with the same game plan and got stopped because of it. So it'll be interesting to see if he does beat Dillashaw. Dillashaw looked good against Sandhagen, not amazing, but yeah, I don't know how that fight would go. I'd have to make a prediction on it as it gets closer or gets announced. But yeah, back to the Aldo versus Khabib GOAT talk. This popped off on Twitter because this all started from Khabib just saying, going at Aldo for no reason at some Russian press conference a few months back. It made no sense for him to really go at him. But then you kind of hear the backstory where it's like Khabib was denying fights against Aldo. Aldo was going to go up to 55 and fight Khabib. But Khabib didn't want to fight him because he was too small. There was a ton of stuff built up to those comments that Khabib made, calling him a businessman and he's just fighting for money, which is just so far from the case because he's not taking money fights really, and he's moving down to bantamweight and fighting these top contenders like Chito Vera and Pedro Munhoz and just beating them. And now Rob Font, the comments just didn't really make sense. So a lot of people were ripping on Khabib for that. And now, because of that, Khabib and Aldo, who's the greatest, conversation goes on. That conversation goes on. So, in my opinion, it all comes down to how you categorize greatness, right? Khabib is the most dominant champion ever, in my opinion. 29-0. That final run he went on where he beat Barbosa and then he beat Iaquinta, which is an okay win. It's kind of looked worse as has his downfall. But yeah, Barbosa, Iaquinta, McGregor, Poirier, Gaethje, that run is amazing. But other than that, he didn't really fight a lot of top-level guys. And what Jose Aldo has done is he's been around forever, and he's fought all the top-level guys his whole career. Since he's gotten into the UFC, he's been the champion for a long time, had 9 title defenses, if I'm correct. And he stayed around fighting the top guys forever during his UFC career. So it's hard to really compare the two without that. It's whether you define greatness as like just overall dominance, or like throughout the years you're staying on top and you're still winning in your like you're fighting people past your prime. Like he's fighting the next generation of fighters, Aldo is, and Khabib's kind of just fought his own generation. So it's hard. It's all about how you define greatness. So if, in my opinion, it would be Aldo because he's stuck around longer, and those title defenses are huge. Like title defenses is a huge part of greatness, in my opinion. And then on to the next topic. Dominick Cruz is fighting this weekend against Pedro Munhoz, and he made some comments in the media against DC's commentary. Now, are the comments incorrect? Not really. Like, you can tell DC doesn't do the proper like studying. Like, sure, he's been watching the UFC forever, but not knowing Sean Brady's name, like not like forgetting Sean Brady's name. Come on, he's the co-main event. You can't be doing that. Like just little things like that you can tell that he doesn't do his research. And in this video that I want to watch, he was talking about how he had someone do his research for him and then write the notes down, and he was paying him for it. So it's just like, all you have to do right now, DC, is commentate. You don't have to fight anymore. I'm sure, of course, you have a family and all that, but you got to take your job seriously. But where Cruz kind of crossed the line is he was saying it publicly. If he only left it to, DC maybe could do a little more film work or something like that. But he went on to say he just wants to get in there and get out and get his money. Like that's a bad look. And DC confronted him about it. So let's watch this video.
Dom, a few days before UFC 269. And I, for one, I'm just excited to see you compete again. How good does it feel?
Feels good. I just like talking to you, man. Let's talk.
Well, yeah, of course we like talking. That's why we talk privately at times also.
Let's go.
But I mean...
Let's go. Well, we don't have to do it private, though. We're right here.
No, I know, but we talk privately, so that's why it proves that we love to talk to each
Dominick
other.
is such a
But right now we're
interesting
talking on air,
So
right?
let's
like,
talk. Let's talk privately on
So
air.
let me ask you a question. But that's the problem, right? Like that's the problem. The things we talk about privately, we aren't supposed to say
Look at Dominick's
in
face.
public.
And who made that?
That's what
that
you
rule?
just did.
Who made that rule?
Who made that?
That's our rule. You say so
Our
many things
rule.
privately that I would never say publicly. We say things
I
privately all the time.
never said anything.
No, you and I say things privately that we never would say publicly.
I
And
didn't.
you literally.
I did
'cause
not
you do
say.
that.
I did
you
not
do-
say anything
No,
that
but
you
you
wouldn't
do-
want me to say in public.
But you do
I
say.
held you accountable.
No,
That's
you
different.
do. But
Accountability
you do say,
is
look,
love,
Wait,
DC.
you do say. No, it's not.
Accountability is love, and that's true. But he can hold him accountable by saying, hey man, DC should probably do a little bit more film work. But once you go, like, he just goes in there for the check and gets out. Like, that comment is where it's like, okay, chill. Because that's not really accountability. That's just kind of degrading the reason why he does his commentary, right? Like, it's putting a bad spin on why he does his commentary.
Love.
It's love only in the
Accountability is
crew.
love.
It's love only in your
No,
mind.
it's just accountability.
Listen,
it's
it's
love.
only
It's
love
a
in your mind,
generalization.
Dominick.
It is a generalization.
No, it is not a
Accountability is love.
generalization. No.
Yes, it is.
Dom, listen
so
to
when
me.
you hold your kid accountable for missing something,
DC
is it
Yes,
love?
but
disagreeing
what are
with
you
that.
holding me accountable for?
Do you
though?
do it because you love
But what are you
not
holding me
watching
accountable
film?
But Dominick, there's different ways to prepare for a fight than watching film. It's not
It's
singular.
not part of it?
It's not singular. I do watch film. I watch film every single time.
What of my fights have you watched?
Do I watch fights to the extent that you watch fights? No.
Do you watch film?
I will openly sit here and say I don't watch fights to the extent that Dominick Cruz watches.
And that's okay. You don't need to watch it. Do you watch it at all, though?
But I do watch film every single time. Every fighter.
What of my fights have you watched?
I've watched every one of your fights. I've called your last fights. I've called your last 2 fights.
Okay, so that's different.
So I watched.
You didn't go back and watch the film, though. You called it.
But Cruzy, before those fights, I watched prior fights. I watched winning fights. I watched losing fights.
Yeah.
I watch all the fights.
Okay.
It's the idea that you know where this idea comes from though, and this is why this is great, right? You and I.
Yeah.
Because when you say stuff like DC, you don't watch fights. I don't bother.
Look at the cauliflower ear on Dominick Cruz.
Because I don't say, well, no, I do, Dominick, because I feel no need to have to really tell you why or how I prepare for my fights.
Okay, so it's my interpretation.
It's your interpretation that I don't watch the fights because I don't combat that you. When you say, oh, you don't watch fights, I don't go, oh, no, Dominick, I do watch fights. So then you take that as me admitting that I don't, but the reality is I do.
You don't think it has anything to do with how you call fights that I can make that determination?
How do I call fights?
I'm just saying.
Dude, listen.
When I heard you call my fight, I don't know.
Cruz,
I don't know what he was talking about when he... I don't know what Cruz is talking about in his last fight in the Cruz and Kenny fight, because... Maybe I watched the first round back last night at like 3 a.m. and then I fell asleep. But I watched it back because I was like, what was DC saying that would infuriate Cruz? Cruz is kind of a weird character, as I said. But in that first round, he was just talking about his weird style. Nothing really like out of line or anything. So I'd have to watch back the second and third round to really get a idea of what Cruz is talking about here. But I agree with Cruz in the fact that sometimes DC is a little uninformed in his commentary and is a little him and Rogan together isn't great. It wasn't as good as it was. It's been deteriorating. Like a lot of their commentating is just kind of like podcasting, which isn't great for the job, right? Like if they had a podcast, it makes sense, but for the job that they're doing, commentating, it's not like super. It's not great. And Cruz muting it, as he said, he mutes it. I do that too sometimes. Like sometimes the commentators can sway you either way. Like in the Adesanya Blachowicz fight, when Cormier and DC were going on about, or Cormier and Rogan were going on about these feints that Adesanya was doing and how they were talking about Blachowicz biting on all these feints. But like Adesanya wasn't capitalizing on the feints, and Blachowicz was doing a really good job when he was reacting correctly. Like his defense in that fight was amazing, and he was landing more shots. And when I was watching it live, I was kind of like swayed by listening to the commentators. So recently, when I'm not watching the fights with my family or my dad or anything, I like to mute it and then just like watch the fight and determine my own opinion without having the commentators in my ear. What the commentators should be providing is helpful analysis in situations like Cormier, obviously Olympic wrestler, like super knowledgeable with wrestling. When he's talking about like chaining your takedowns together and body lock takedowns, trips, all that, that's great. When he's not providing that analysis, it's a lot of podcasting with Rogan. So I get where Cruz is coming from, but again, as I said, we won't watch the rest of the video. Bisping hops in here eventually, but I agree with Cruz in the fact that DC could probably do a little more homework, but bashing his character with that he just wants to get in, get his money and get out, like that's a little, you guys are supposed to be friends, a little offside. So going on to the next topic is Jake Paul. We will be covering Jake Paul on this podcast because I watch all the Jake Paul fights. I find them entertaining. He's really smart at making you want to see him lose, and I love how he's just playing the system like that. And I've followed Jake Paul for a long time, like not like a fan per se, but I know about the Paul brothers. I'm a fan of Logan Paul. I'll say that openly. And a lot of people hate on the Paul brothers because obviously they come across as douchey. I'm kind of indifferent. I'm kind of that way with a lot of people hate Colby, but I'm like, he's playing a character. I'm indifferent to most people. I don't really hate any fighters or anything like that. So Jake Paul was supposed to fight Tommy Fury, not this weekend, but the next weekend. And Tommy Fury pulled out, broken ribs and a chest infection, which you don't want to be fighting with broken ribs. That's a valid excuse. He never showed any x-rays. I'm not insinuating that he's lying about it, or ensuing. Is that even a word? I'm not suggesting that he's lying about it or anything like that, but if you just post the x-ray pictures, then people will get off your ass. Jake Paul won't. He'll still be calling Tommy fumbles and, But either way, Tommy Fury pulls out and in steps Tyron Woodley. Now, Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley 2 is on. Is Woodley going to throw his punches this time? Is he going to move forward? Is Dean Thomas going to be in his corner telling him to throw combinations that he's never thrown before? Who knows? But either way, I think Tyron Woodley will come into this fight like a little more aggressive, hopefully, right? Like you say that all the time, like right after his Usman loss, going into his fight with Gilbert Burns, you were like, okay, he's got to be a little more aggressive. He can't just sit against the cage. And then he did it. And then against Covington, we're like, okay, he's going to be aggressive because he hates this guy, Colby Covington. But that was a tailor-made matchup for him to, again, sit against the cage. He loses that. And then he goes against Vicente Luque in his final fight where his life in the UFC is on the line. And he just comes out swinging, which is respectable. But he did it against probably the worst guy, Vicente Luque, who is just a nasty counterpuncher, has a nasty left hook, and has a chin of granite. So, lost that. And then he's going into the Jake Paul fight, and we're like, this guy Jake Paul, he's only fought people who are shit at boxing. Gibb was the best boxer. Like, Nate Robinson obviously could not box at all, just ran in straight lines going like this with his head up. And then there's Ben Askren, who's the worst striker in UFC history. And that's just like fact. I can't find who's worse than him. You could say Damian Maia, but Damian Maia boxed him up. So, like, I can't even think of a worse striker. Jake Paul had only fought guys who couldn't box, so you were like, okay, Woodley is going to be aggressive in this fight, and he's going to throw. But all Woodley did was he walked Jake Paul down, but he didn't throw his hands. There were openings there that he didn't capitalize on, and he rocked him once, but it just wasn't enough. Jake Paul was just more active. So going into the second fight, is Woodley going to throw more? Hopefully, right? Like, hopefully he learned from his mistake and he's going to be like, okay, I'm just going to go at this kid. But it's Woodley, so you never know. Yeah, it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. If Jake Paul knocks out Woodley, I don't know. Okay, let's just get into the 269 predictions, starting with the first fight on the card. All right, so the first fight of the night is Gillian Robertson, fellow Canadian, against Priscilla Cachoeira. This is a flyweight bout. And Gillian Robertson is a minus 400 favorite, which is kind of crazy to me because she's like a gatekeeper. And Priscilla Cachoeira is on a 2-fight KO streak, but I guess the odds makers think that Gillian Robertson is just going to take her down because Priscilla Cachoeira cannot defend a takedown to save her life. Even in her last fight at UFC 262, Priscilla was getting taken down at will by Gina Mazzani until Mazzani gassed out, and then Priscilla standing TKO'd her. She's got decent power for the women's divisions, and being on a 2-fight KO streak in women's divisions shows that. So she's got decent power, but she can't stop a takedown. And Gillian Robertson will go for the takedown because that's her kind of game plan. And Priscilla Cachoeira isn't fast or anything by any means. She's persistent, with the right hand. She threw like 3 in a row. I remember that. But yeah, I think if Jillian Robertson doesn't gas out and can just keep Priscilla Cachoeira down and just put a decent takedown attempt, like put 3 decent takedown attempts around, because Priscilla will probably eventually get up. But yeah, if Jillian can just wrestle her and maybe even get a submission, then I would pick Jillian. But will Jillian gas out? I don't know. But for my official prediction, I am going to go Jillian Robertson, fellow Canadian. She got this shit. And then next fight on the card is at bantamweight, Randy Costa, prospect, against Tony Kelley, the husband of Andrea Lee. That's the only reason I know him. But I watched back some of his fights. He had a fight on the Santagan Marias card. He fought this guy, Al-Kasai, this bald dude. Tony Kelley's got good low kicks. He fights mainly out of orthodox, but he does switch. And when he rushes in with punches, he'll be in orthodox, he'll rush in with punches, and he likes to follow with his back leg. Like, he likes to square up his stance after either he's just overextending and stepping into that stance, or he's like trying to do it on purpose to attack out of southpaw, because he was going southpaw for some of that Al-Kasai fight. But yeah, not a super impressive performance, but he's going against Randy Costa, who looked super good in his last fight against Adrian Yanez, another prospect, until he didn't. He kind of gassed out. He was doing a really good job with his jab, and the reason why it was working so well against Yanez, who is really good with head movement, and is he was jabbing and putting head kicks at the end of his punches. So he'd throw a right hand and then a head kick, and the last thing you want to do with a head kick is slip onto it. So he was sticking the jab and throwing head kicks to like discourage Yanez from slipping the punches. So Yanez's head was there to just get jabbed up, and Costa was just jabbing him up over and over for that first round. But then Costa was kind of gassed. And Yanez is a good fighter. There's no shame in losing to him. 2 young prospects. So I think that Costa will keep Tony Kelley at a distance, use his high kicks, and use those straight punches. And yeah, I think Costa will win this one pretty easily. And then we go on to Ryan Hall versus Derek Minner, and the return of Ryan Hall. His last fight, he was knocked out by Ilia Topuria. A lot of people who watch his style, sometimes they don't understand. Like my dad hates him because he's just rolling around. But Ryan Hall's style is super interesting. How he keeps you at bay with side kicks, front kicks, spinning kicks. Never wants to get in punching range. And as soon as you're anywhere near punching range, he Imanari rolls. Or he was doing that weird roll against Ilia Topuria where he'd try to grab here. I don't know what it's called, but it was just an unorthodox attack on the legs, and he kept trying it over and over and over. And eventually Ilia tagged him. But now he fights Derek Minner, another amazing grappler. Derek Minner's got 21 first-round finishes and has all these different kinds of subs. And he last fought Darren Elkins in a losing effort where he was dominating him in the first round. He's fighting Darren Elkins. Guess what friggin' happened? Darren Elkins came back. Derek Minner was gassed. And Darren Elkins just got him in a crucifix and landed 60 straight punches, but then Derek Minner escaped it, but was still gassed, and Elkins just pounded him out in the second round. So this will be an interesting fight. 2 really good grapplers. Derek Minner's got a ton of cool front headlock chokes and stuff like that, and obviously Ryan Hall with the leg locks. This will be an interesting matchup. In terms of who I think will win, I could see Ryan Hall. Winning this one. Yeah, I think Ryan Hall will win this. I think he'll sub him. I think Ryan Hall will sub him because Derek Minner will get a little too comfortable, and. Yeah, maybe it won't be with a leg lock, but I think Ryan Hall will sub him. Moving on, next fight. Next fight is Miranda Maverick against Erin Blanchfield. These two are both under 25, if I'm not mistaken. I know Blanchfield is like 23 years old, and I think Maverick might be 25, 26. But both young girls. Maverick's a southpaw. Blanchfield I hadn't seen before, so I had to rewatch her last fight. I think it was her UFC debut. And good knees and elbows in the clinch. Not a lot of pop on her punches, but she pressures, and she's persistent with her punches. She likes the 1-2 down the middle, and she kind of leans back in straight lines. There's not a lot of side-to-side movement. It's a lot here and here, back and forth. But yeah, she likes the pressure. She's got decent wrestling, but I think Miranda Maverick has got to use her wrestling in this fight. She's got better wrestling. She's a southpaw. She's got good subs. She had a really nice armbar that I watched in Invicta a few years back, 3 or 4 years back. She had the mount, and she got shucked off, and then she just transitioned to the armbar beautifully and maintained it for like a minute, like before she got it and flipped over on her back armbar. It was nice. I think if Maverick can employ her wrestling, I think she's got the advantage on the feet as well, if I'm honest. They're kind of similar on the feet. Not a lot of like speed to their punches, kind of just down the middle, and not a lot of side-to-side head movement. So I think if Maverick can take her down and control it there, I think she'll have a good chance of winning. So yeah, I think I'm going to go Miranda Maverick on this one. And then we go to the headliner of the early prelims. Thank God I have Fight Pass, or else I'd be missing like 6 fights. Andre Muniz against Eric Anders. And Eric Anders is a striker. He's fought a lot of the better guys at light heavyweight. Like, he's got a good resume of guys. He doesn't really win all that often, but let me see. Oh, he's coming off a unanimous decision win against Darren Stewart, but before that it was a loss to Jotko, and he went on a 3-fight skid a little bit before that. Khalil Roundtree, Elias Theodorou, the GOAT, and Thiago Santos. I think Theodorou lost once against Derek Brunson and got cut because he was so boring. Yeah. So Eric Anders, decent striker, nothing crazy. But this guy, Andre Muniz, who he's fighting, is really interesting to me. He's got a 78-inch reach at middleweight, long reach. He's got a very weird frame. He's got wide shoulders and big arms, and a really like slim waist and small abdomen. It's really weird to look at him, really. Yeah, in Muniz's last fight, he armbarred Cachoeira. What? Who does that? Crazy. Yeah, he said he was the better grappler going into the fight, and the commentators, like Joe Rogan, was like, Muniz before the fight said he was the better grappler, which is a crazy thing to say, and it is a crazy thing to say because Cachoeira is so accomplished as a grappler. And then in the first round, immediately, Muniz got 2 good takedowns on Cachoeira, and the last person to take him down was like Weidman, and I think only, I think it was like Weidman and like 2 other guys who have taken him down. Cachoeira and Weidman, I think it was. I think it was just, oh no, it was Weidman and Jack Hermansson, sorry, not Cachoeira. Cachoeira can't take down Cachoeira. Hermansson and Weidman were the only 2 people to take him down, or something like that. And then Muniz got 2 takedowns with ease. Beautiful timing on his takedowns. And then he jumped on the back, and it was against the cage. Cachoeira slid him off the top, but Muniz grabbed the arm, and it was a nasty arm break. And yeah, Muniz looked good in that fight. He's a really interesting prospect at middleweight. And he's a southpaw, like I said, good timing on takedowns. I think he's just going to be too much for Eric Anders. If I'm honest, he's ranked 15 at the moment, and I think Eric Anders is just kind of hanging on by a string at this point in his career. Don't think he's got much left. So yeah, I'm going to go Muniz, and he might sub him. I think he'll take him down and dominate him either way. And then we go to the first fight on the prelims, Jordan Wright against Bruno Silva. And I don't really even have to watch Bruno Silva, but Bruno Silva's last fight was against Andrew Sanchez. And Andrew Sanchez was wrestling the shit out of him for 2 rounds. He dick kicked him twice in the first round, back to back. Like he took a oh my god. Sanchez nut shot him, and then immediately Bruno Silva. So Sanchez nut shot him, and Silva took his minute to rest or whatever, and then he went right back out there and then just nut shotted him again. So Keith Peterson, the ref at for that fight. Oh my god, I can't speak. Keith Peterson was the ref for that fight, and he didn't take a point. And then Sanchez dominated him in the first round of the wrestling, and then in the second round, the same thing. And then in the third round, Sanchez started to get tired. And when Bruno Silva was having success was when Sanchez was backed against the fence, and Silva was unleashing these nice boxing combos and ripping the body well. He would throw 4 body shots in a row, which definitely helped gas out Sanchez. And then Sanchez dick kicked him again. And this one wasn't hard or anything like that. It was kind of just because of how tired Sanchez was, he kind of just threw up a lazy kick, and it caught him in the cup. But Sanchez was tired. And then right after that, Silva just kind of swarmed him against the fence with punches, going to the body, going to the head. And Keith Peterson stopped it. Yeah, it wasn't a great performance by any means, but Jordan Wright's not going to try and take Bruno Silva down. Jordan Wright is, what's his nickname? It's a stupid-ass nickname. I want to say it. It's the California some shit. The Beverly Hills Ninja. Yeah, he's not... Oh, he won by KO in UFC 262? I don't even remember that. I just remember his fight against Buckley. Yeah. I mean, I guess he had a knockout UFC 262 against Jamie Pickett. But, yeah, Jordan Wright isn't a super good fighter. He's got cool kicks, decent karate and stuff like that, which might be a problem for Silva, but I don't think Wright has the chin, and I think he'll get backed up against the fence, and Silva won't unleash those boxing combos against the fence. I think Wright's available for those body shots, and he does push himself against the fence. He got knocked out against the fence against Joaquin Buckley. So, yeah, I think it's a safe bet to go Bruno Silva here. He is a minus 350 favorite, so I'm not really saying anything that crazy. And then we go to the next fight, heavyweights, Augusto Sakai and Tai Tuivasa. This is a pick'ems fight, minus 110, minus 110. Tai Tuivasa has been looking good. He's on a little bit of a win streak. And Augusto Sakai lost to Overeem recently. I don't know if that was his last fight or not. But yeah, Tai Tuivasa is on a little bit of a win streak. Back-to-back first-round KOs over Harry Hunsucker, where he was landing good leg kicks. Tai Tuivasa has really underrated leg kicks, hard leg kicks. He's got big legs, and he swings them hard. And he got, in his last fight, UFC 264, a good knockout over Greg Hardy, which was, he got stunned. And then he hit him with this left hook, and Hardy just went down hard. No pun intended there. But yeah, I think Tai Tuivasa has the tools to win this fight against Augusto Sakai. But Augusto Sakai is a good fighter as well. He's ranked number 11. and he got KO'd in his last fight. Okay. So he lost his last fight against Jairzinho. And I think before that, he lost to Overeem. Is that correct? Yeah, so Sakai's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's fighting someone out of the rankings. Both TKOs. Overeem in the 5th round and Rosenstrike in the 1st. So it'll be interesting to see how Sakai bounces back from those. But Sakai's a big dude, powerful guy. But I don't know. I think I like Tai here. I think I like Tai. If Tai can use those leg kicks as well, I think he's got to use those more. And Tai's a powerful, fast heavyweight. I think Tai's got all the tools to win this fight. And I'm going to pick Tai Tuivasa. Hopefully by knockout. And then next we go into Pedro Munhoz and Dominick Cruz. Now this is an interesting matchup as well. Dominick Cruz obviously got the movement, and Pedro Munhoz has the calf kicks. He loves those calf kicks. He tried those against Jose Aldo, but Jose Aldo put on a clinic on how to defend the calf kick, showing everyone that it is possible to defend it. It's not unstoppable. And Pedro Munhoz doesn't really do a good job of setting them up. It's a lot of just blasting the calf kick with no setup. He did that against Jimmy Rivera, and it worked in that fight. And Jimmy Rivera was throwing them back. They were just calf kicking each other. That was a funny fight. But yeah, Pedro Munhoz has been on a little bit of a roll, despite the Jose Aldo fight. And well, he beat Garbrandt. He lost to Sterling. Then he lost to Frankie Edgar. So maybe not on a bit of a roll, but he's been fighting the top guys. And here he gets a matchup in Dominick Cruz where he's got to head off Dominick Cruz and kick the legs. Like, he's got to kick the legs against the fence. He can't just expect to blast calf kicks out of nowhere and land them on Dominick Cruz, because Dominick Cruz will start timing that with his bouncing, and then he'll, off of a calf kick, he'll catch it and get a takedown. He likes that post single off of punches. He likes to punch and then hold and go for a takedown. Cruz and DC were talking about it in that video we watched. But yeah, this will be interesting to see how Pedro Munhoz does, because we know Cruz is going to do that bouncing around movement. I think if Cruz can use his wrestling with avoiding that guillotine of Pedro Munhoz, because Munhoz has a really good guillotine. So if Cruz can wrestle while avoiding that guillotine, and then just stay safe on the feet and tag him with his looping hooks, I like Cruz's chances. And I think Pedro's a little too flat-footed for Cruz, if I'm honest. So I might go Cruz in this one. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Dominick Cruz. I think he'll win a decision probably. And then we go to the headliner of the prelims, a low-key banger on this card, Josh Emmett and Dan Ige. Ige off of the loss to Korean Zombie, but before that he had a really nice knockout against Justin Tucker in about 13 seconds or something like that. Just timed him on the way in, right down the pipe, right hand. And Josh Emmett had that fight of the year contender against Shane Burgos. When isn't Shane Burgos in a fight of the year? Where he like blew both of his knees out or something crazy. Like in the first round, one of his knees was out on I think it was a torn ACL or something like that. And he still fought valiantly. He's got power for that division. He hit so hard. His knockout against Michael Johnson, just, oh. And he's a durable guy as well. He got finished by Jeremy Stevens. That pops in my head. But other than that, he's pretty durable. Super tough. And yeah, this will be an interesting fight. I think Ige has got to come in with the right game plan. He often kind of comes in with a weird game plan for fights. So I think if he comes in with the right game plan against Josh Emmett, maybe not engaging in trades as much as he sometimes likes to do, because Emmett's so powerful. mixing in some wrestling as well. Josh Emmett's got good wrestling too. Yeah, this will be an interesting fight. The odds have Josh Emmett slightly, and I think I'm going to lean Josh Emmett as well, just because of the power advantage that he holds. And Ige often comes in with a weird game plan. So yeah, I'm going to go Emmett. And then we get into the main card, and kicking off the main card is the unranked bantamweight champion of the world, Sean O'Malley. Loves fighting unranked guys until today, till Saturday. Raulian Paiva is ranked number 15. And I think this is a really good matchup for Sean O'Malley in terms of something that he can win. And he's a minus 320 favorite for a reason. O'Malley's got really good striking. He's really good with front kicks, got really good spinning attacks, quick punches, switches stances really well. Loves that spin. Boop, boop. Loves that feint. I love that feint too. It's interesting. It's new. And Raulian Paiva had a nice win against Kyler Phillips, who I was pretty hot on after Kyler Phillips' performance against Song Yadong, where he looked really good. But Kyler Phillips kind of gassed himself out. He kind of lost that fight. Paiva didn't really beat him. Phillips kind of beat himself. But Paiva capitalized, and Paiva likes to lead with his head and throw right hands. Yeah, and I think this is just tailor-made for O'Malley. I don't see... Paiva could catch him, of course, but I think O'Malley's going to be too slick for him. Going to kick the body and probably counter him on the way in because Paiva likes to lead with his head a little bit. So, yeah, for that one, I'm going to go Show O'Malley. And then we go into Cody Garbrandt's flyweight debut against Kai Kara-France. This is going to be a really interesting fight. We'll see how Cody looks on weigh-in day. I'm recording this before weigh-ins, but hopefully he makes weight, obviously. Hopefully he doesn't drain himself too much. I know he was never a big bantamweight, but still, that's 10 extra pounds to lose. And Kai Kara-France is just a banger, dude. He hits hard. He likes to get in scraps. That fight against Brandon Royval was crazy. They both had each other rocked. That spinning elbow by Royval was insane. Yeah, this will be interesting. If Cody can, it'll be weird to see Cody at flyweight because will he have the speed advantage? He always has the speed advantage at bantamweight. He's so fast with his hands. But will he have the speed advantage going down to flyweight? Kai Kara-France is not this extremely fast flyweight, but he's fast. So yeah, I think if Kai Kara-France can crack Cody, I don't know how good Cody's chin is going to be at 25. He obviously showed a really good chin against Rob Font, which was surprising because he looked a little chinny before that. But cutting that extra 10 pounds might be the factor, and Kai Kara-France might crack him. That's what I'm going to go for. Although Garbrandt is the minus 135 favorite, I think I'm going to go with Kai Kara-France, and I think he's going to knock him out. And then we go into Santiago Ponzinibbio against Jeff Neal. If you don't remember, this card was supposed to have Leon Edwards and Jorge Masvidal, which would have been dope as hell. But sadly, Masvidal, I think he broke his ribs or either bruised ribs. I think I saw Mike Brown say that and had to pull out. But this fight is going to be pretty good as well. Santiago Ponzinibbio looked absolutely unstoppable when he fought Neil Magny. That was peak Santiago Ponzinibbio. He looked so clean in that fight. His jab, it just looked like he was going to run through the whole division. But then he got those, had so much problems with injuries, and he had a terrible blood infection or something like that, which was just scary. And he almost died, crazy. He returned against the Leech, Hamzat's recent opponent, and he got knocked out against the Leech. But then he came back, fought Miguel Baeza, got his calf ripped to shreds. But after he got his calf ripped to shreds, he was landing the jab. His boxing looked good again. And yeah, he toughed out a good decision win against Miguel Baeza. And now he's fighting Jeff Neal, who last fought Wonder Boy, I'm pretty sure. And for some reason, Jeff Neal didn't throw any leg kicks at Wonder Boy. Didn't try to hamper his movement at all. Just kind of let Wonder Boy do his thing. And yeah, it just wasn't a great game plan from Jeff Neal. But Jeff Neal is largely a left hand and a left high kick. He's a southpaw. And yeah, pretty one-dimensional with his attack. So it'll be interesting to see if after almost a year off, he's developed a little bit. But Ponzinibbio is the favorite, and I think I'm going to go with Ponzinibbio. I think Ponzinibbio will box him up. He's just got to watch that high kick from Jeff Neal and that left hand. And I think he will watch it. Yeah, I'll go Ponzinibbio. And then we go into the first title fight, Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena. Not much really to say about this, is there? My minus 1,000 favorite is Amanda Nunes. And Juliana Pena is on a one-fight win streak, and she got out-grappled by Germaine de Randamie, got subbed by her, and Amanda Nunes grappled Germaine de Randamie, like out-grappled Germaine de Randamie. And Pena's only hope in this fight is to out-grapple Amanda Nunes. So if we're doing some math, I know MMA math doesn't always add up, but you know what I mean? I don't think Juliana Pena's got much of a chance in this one, as it's not a hot take. But yeah, I don't think I have to cover this much. I think I'm going to go Amanda Nunes. And then we go into the main event. Holy shit, is this main event a banger. Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, the favorite in this one, only slight, minus 155. But man, these two are just at the peak of their powers. Oliveira on like a 10-fight win streak right now. Might be 9 or 10. I'm not quite sure. But finishes in most of them. I think he only didn't finish Tony Ferguson. But everyone else he finished. Yeah, Oliveira's a killer. And that left hook he landed against Michael Chandler. Oh, perfect left hook. And obviously Poirier, his last 2 fights with McGregor. The third one was somewhat controversial, the ending, obviously. But he was on his way to winning the fight, let's be real. And in the second fight, he just knocked him out, landed those calf kicks. But in terms of this fight, this is a different fight. Poirier is the more powerful fighter, I will say, the grittier fighter. And there's this script, I can't find the word right now. There's this public opinion on Charles Oliveira that he's a quitter. And I think that Charles Oliveira should be relieved of that. Of course, he has quit in past fights, specifically against Paul Felder, and there were some other times as well where he seemed like his will wasn't there. But of late, his will's been there. His fight against Michael Chandler showed that. He got rocked in the first round bad, and he had to recover, and came back in the second round and knocked him out. So it's going to be hard for Poirier to rely on Oliveira being a quitter, and he can't do that, or else he'll be in trouble. Oliveira is so dangerous everywhere on the feet. Got really good uppercuts, like in the clinch too, when you get close. Got good elbows, good knees, really good front kicks, and he can kick freely without being worried to be taken down because his ground game is ridiculous. He's the greatest submission artist in UFC history. Got the most subs by far, I think. I think he's got the most subs by like 3 or 4 now. So yeah, Poirier's obviously got to be careful going to the ground. But I don't think going to the ground would be such a bad idea for Poirier. Maybe avoid it in the first few rounds, but once maybe Oliveira is gassing in the third or the fourth, it could be a good idea to get him stacked up against the fence like Paul Felder did and throw some ground and pound, because Poirier's got good ground and pound against the fence, as we saw in the third McGregor fight before the leg break. So, man, this fight is so close. I think Oliveira is being overlooked just because Poirier's 2 fights with McGregor and how he's become sort of a star. But, man, you can't count out Charles Oliveira, especially the win streak he's on right now. He's just on fire. He's firing on all cylinders. You can't count him out. So, if I were to pick someone, oh, man, Poirier, Oliveira. I don't know. I just see this image in my head of Oliveira winning and Poirier being devastated because this was his chance and how devastated he was after that Khabib loss. When everyone thought he was going to lose. Like, not everyone, but when he was favored to lose in that one. But now he's favored to win, and I just have this image in my head of Poirier being so distraught and Oliveira winning. Either catching him on the feet, surprising him, or subbing him. I think Oliveira's at a new level right now, and obviously Poirier's at the top of his game as well. But I just think Oliveira's going to be a little bit too much for him. Could be wrong. Obviously, might be wrong. But, yeah, I think I'm going to go with Charles Oliveira, and I think he's going to finish him because Oliveira's a finisher. Yeah, I think that's it. Those are all my picks. Damn, this has gone on for quite a while. I'll briefly talk about Vasily Lomachenko and Richard Commey. I don't know much about Richard Commey. I know he fought against Teofimo Lopez and lost the belt there. Yeah, I think he lost the belt to Teofimo Lopez, but was overall, Commey's a good boxer. And obviously Lomachenko, one of the greatest talents in boxing history. What Teofimo Lopez did to solve Lomachenko, just canceling out his outside foot manipulation where he just steps outside the orthodox fighter's lead foot and just works combinations. Like Teofimo Lopez looked amazing in that fight and had all the counters to that. But then got boxed up by Kambosos a little bit. But yeah, I think Lomachenko is going to be the clear favorite to win this fight, and I think as he should be. I think Commey won't be able to deal with the angles like Teofimo did, and I think Loma will just figure him out. But I'm excited for all the fights this weekend. Bunch of great fights. And yeah, thank you for watching my first ever picks podcast. If you made it to the end, you're cracked. Don't know how you did it. Probably boring as hell right now. But yeah, thank you for watching and enjoy the fights. Sheesh.